Welcome to the first video on how to manage challenging behaviors in early childhood environments. In this first short video, you'll learn about the key components of the Kids Own Wisdom approach that gets kids voluntarily taking personal responsibility for their own challenging behaviors. Without resistance, believe it or not. Do you know kids like this? Of course you do. We all do. How many times have you told kids, don't push, do share, don't peek, don't interrupt, stop picking fights, stop picking your nose? And how many times have you had to repeat those do's and don'ts? A lot, right? Over and over again. Of course, it's our job as parents and teachers to teach kids about the do's and don'ts that will support them in their social, emotional, and life skills development. But at a certain point, we have just got to stop telling them over and over again. Because, and I'm sure you relate to this, at a certain point, they have tuned us out. So nothing good is being accomplished, sometimes quite the opposite. And it's time to take a different approach, a very different approach. First, a little history lesson. John Locke, the 17th century English philosopher, is famously credited with describing all humans as blank slates at birth. He went on to explain that the direct implication of his blank slate theory was that children need to be taught everything. Now, obviously, we are not going to argue with Locke when it comes to teaching kids straight up about numbers, how to count, how to add and subtract. And we do not disagree with Locke that the only way kids are going to learn the alphabet and how to read is if we teach them what they need to know. And the same thing goes for learning facts about the world. The thing is, kids are generally okay and wide open to learning about those subjects because this is a very big because they're not invested in those subjects. Those subjects are not personal to them. Which is why we do not agree, on the contrary, with Locke's blank slate theory when it comes to kids' individuality. Individuality that often experiences strong feelings about what they like and about who they like and about how they like to do things, as well as about who they don't like, what they don't like, and what they don't want to do. In fact, it's crystal clear to many of us who work with young kids that they were never blank slates when it came to their own reactions and feelings, which oftentimes are strong. Unlike their much more neutral reactions and feelings towards the math, alphabet, reading, and writing sides of their lives. What to do with these facts? We say accept them and work with them. And so the heck with John Locke and his blank slate theory. Here are 5 keys to success for managing challenging behavior by working with the fact that kids were never blank slates when it came to their own feelings. And by the way, not only were kids, including you and me, never blank slates, but by genuinely and consistently acknowledging that fact, kids thrive, shine, and cooperate more and more. Okay, let's get started. Number 1, kids just naturally have reactions and feelings, oftentimes strong ones, about what they like and about what they don't like. Second key to success with managing challenging behaviors: empathy is hardwired at birth. You know what that means? It means you don't have to try to teach empathy. You just need to create multiple opportunities that draw out that inborn capacity from kids. Way easier. Third, most kids are naturally inclined to adjust their own behavior once language is their main tool of communication, which usually happens by 4 or 5 years of age. Fourth, kids are fascinated by each other, which is an essential key for success in helping them to make the kinds of behavioral choices that actually work for everyone, including themselves, rather than just themselves. And the fifth fundamental key to success: kids want, need, and deserve to be seen, to be listened to be acknowledged. And there is just mountains of scientific research to validate this and the previous fact, by the way. What do we do with these 5 keys for successfully managing challenging behavior in early childhood environments? We bring together groups of kids, the kids with the challenging behaviors and their non challenging peers, for peer group discussions. Discussions that are based on the kinds of questions that genuinely respect all kids' intelligence, all kids' personal experiences and insights. Questions that are broad enough that no one ever feels singled out about which would give rise to defensiveness. Instead, we use the kinds of questions that evoke kids' own hardwired capacity to empathize and objectively decipher what's fair and what's not fair. Questions that intrigue kids enough to think about familiar situations in fresh ways, ways that genuinely engage their natural inclination to discover creative and all around workable solutions. Questions that grab kids' attention, causing them to listen to each other, which increases their awareness of each other and how much they all have in common, which is how they all find out that they all have a lot more in common than they knew they did before they sat down together to engage in peer group discussions. Peer group discussions in which the kids do all the thinking and come up with all the solutions, oftentimes based on what we've been teaching them, with the extremely important element of their own internal processing. During these peer group discussions, kids receive the respect and the freedom to use their own words to express their own understanding, which science again, research, educational research tells us is how true ownership is achieved about the kinds of behaviors that truly work for everyone. Truly. So, congratulations. You have now got the basics of the Kids' Own Wisdom philosophy and approach. You are more than welcome to watch the next quick video to learn how the basics are put into action for real changes to challenging behavior. And I hope you'll remember that your likes and your comments are really encouraging to us, and we appreciate them more than we can say. Thank you.